You have to remember, you only fix a squat with a squat. You only fix a bench press with a bench press. Doing the rows is good, but it's up to you to then cue and put that action into the lift itself. Hi, my name is Thomas. I'm the owner of Zero. We coach some of the best lifters in the world, including Colton Engelbrecht, Theo Maddox, Danny Grigsby, Lily Riley, and more. Today, I'm gonna run you through a really common trick that we use to improve the upper back, and this is going to apply to squats, bench press, and deadlift. It's one of the things that's commonly misunderstood when it comes to these three lifts, and as we go through and talk about it, I'm hoping that you can take some practical tips away that you can apply to your own lifting and see some changes straight away. The upper back in general is quite a complex system. There's a lot going on. At Zero, we break this down into three major categories, and there's 6 components. So category 1 is shoulder stability. Shoulder stability is just the combination of internal and external rotation of the shoulder. This isn't something you have to think about too much. Category 2 is scapular stability. So that's what's happening with your scaps. We need them to retract, we need them to depress, and also we need anti-tilt. Tilt is just as your shoulder comes back, so as the shoulder goes into extension, the scap sometimes wants to tilt forward. We don't want that to happen. It's not something you can think about, but it's something we are mindful of as coaches. The last component is thoracic stability, and primarily we're looking at thoracic extension. You don't want to extend your thoracic in a squat or a deadlift, you do in a bench press. However, we're engaging thoracic extension to create a bit of an isometric in the torso, to create rigidness in the torso. So when you're doing a squat or a deadlift, you're not getting folded in half. In terms of engaging your upper back on a squat, we got to think again, what do we actually want? Well, we want torque at the shoulder. To create torque at the shoulder, we need to have a firm grip on the barbell. So it's really important to squeeze the bar really tight. We want scapular retraction, depression, and again, that engagement of thoracic extension without truly extending our thoracic. This sounds very complicated, but we can make this simple by just relating it to something we all know how to do. What's an exercise where you take your scaps through retraction and depression while your shoulders are going through that motion of extension? Well, a lat pull down. If we think about doing the motion of a lat pull down while setting up under the barbell, squeezing it really tight, we tick all those boxes of that complex, complicated shoulder system and can engage our upper back far more effectively when we're performing this squat. So it's gonna be really simple. Grab the bar, find your grip. The grip needs to be wide enough that you can get under the bar and engage those shoulder muscles effectively, and not so narrow that you're just jamming yourself under. There has to be a middle ground in there somewhere. So find your hand width, squeeze the bar really tightly, step back, lean forward, go through that action of doing a lat pull down. So you're squeezing your shoulders as you're getting under the bar. Once you're under, squeeze between your shoulder blades even harder, lock that in as tight as you can, and then just hold that the whole time. The low bar position on squats is one of the most demanding things that we put our shoulders through. And this is why it can be so problematic. It's pretty common, especially for bigger people, to run into that arm pain on bench press. That neural arm pain comes from issues with setting the low bar position on squats. Now, sometimes people will talk about needing more rotation at the shoulder. Rotation is actually a compensation for something else. We don't need much rotation at the shoulder to get into a low bar position. What we really need is for the arm to be pulled back as far as it can so that the bar can rest across our back. Most people can't get their scaps retracted enough to create the low bar position. What they end up doing is just shoving themselves under the bar. This is problematic for a few reasons. The biggest reason is it means you're not creating the tightness. You might feel tight because you're jammed into that position, but if you're not creating that tightness, you're going to leak power through the system when you go to push up in the squat. That's when you're gonna see the bar want to roll. That's when you're gonna see the arms getting loaded up. That's when you're gonna see other compensations happening, whether that's folding in half or extending through the torso and losing that power transfer through your brace. That's why getting this part right is so important. The great thing is though, you get it right here, it's gonna contribute to bench press and deadlift and all the way back and forth. In much the same way, we're going to need to use our shoulders on the bench press. And in the bench press, this forms the foundation for where we are going to press from. You've probably heard of the idea of pulling the shoulders back and down when you bench press. There's a reason for that. The back part, that's scapular retraction. So that's about pulling the scaps back. That's going to shorten the effective length of your arm, decrease the range of motion. That's also going to stabilize your upper back so that the muscles acting upon the shoulder can do their job in the best way possible. The depression part, that's about pulling your scaps down. This is going to pull them down underneath your chest. It's going to contribute to creating shoulder torque by biasing towards external rotation. It's also going to contribute to getting your chest up and out, which is also going to contribute to that whole decrease in the range of motion. Altogether, this is about putting your body in a position that's going to allow you to move the most weight. The way we have to think about bench press, your pec's job is to lever the arm across the body. Think about leverage. Think about a deadlift jack. You hook it under a barbell, you pull on it, and even if there's 300 kilos, you can pick that barbell up. That's because of the mechanical advantage of leverage. That relies on the leverage point being fixed. If that handle where it plugs into the base was broken or made out of a spring, when you pull, nothing happens. Come back to your body. The pec levers the arm across the body. If that leverage point is not fixed, you're not going to create as much power. And your shoulder's not fixed. It can move forward and back and up and down. So when we fix our shoulders into position, we can create more power from the pecs and move more weight. That's ultimately what this is all about. Outside of all the technical mumbo jumbo, this is about lifting as much weight as possible and continuing to do that in the safest way possible so you can get stronger over time. Now, this is where the difficulty of bench press comes in, and this is why a lot of people struggle with bench press. Because of this shoulder position being quite complex, it can be quite confusing when you go to lift. There's a lot that you have to think about and you have to control. There's a lot going on, and it's also quite counterintuitive. We're trying to pull our shoulders back, but when you push something away, your body's natural inclination is to move your shoulders forward. So you're trying to do the opposite of what your body wants to do. Thankfully, we can simplify this, and the way we're going to simplify it is with a drill. The easiest drill is going to be a band pull apart. Now, what we're trying to do with our shoulders, if you put your arms out in front of you, pull your shoulders back, pull your shoulders down, stick your chest out, that's what we're trying to do the entire time we bench. Try that again, all in one smooth motion, so shoulders back and down, chest out. Now, to get the feeling of what it's like when you're actually bench pressing, you can do that band pull apart. So take the band, pull your shoulders back and down, then pull the band apart. Now, the band wants to do what the bar wants to do. It wants to pull you out of position. You got to fight that. So shoulders back and down, pull the band apart. As you're letting go of the band, keep squeezing between your shoulder blades. That's what it should feel like the entire time you're benching. To emphasize this even further, like you would be when you're doing a bench press, as you pull the band apart, think about squeezing your chest out to meet the band. That's because scapular retraction is dynamic. The further your arm comes back, the more you can afford to retract. So you want to think about it. That's where that cue of squeezing your chest out comes from in the bench press. It's a good thing. This is also a great way to test what we were saying on squats. So if you pull your shoulders back and down and pull the band apart, and you can't get past the level of your chest, how do you expect to pull off a low bar squat if you can't get your arm back here? So not only is this good for priming and getting these muscles ready to bench press and understand the cueing, but it's also a good framework to see how much you're improving on your ability to retract your scaps and get your shoulders back, which is going to carry over into the squat as well. When you get onto the bench press then, you're just thinking about doing that the whole time. Shoulders back and down as the bar comes down to the chest. Think about squeezing the chest out to meet the bar. Touch really lightly on the chest, a feather touch. That's going to keep all of that stuff engaged, and then hold on to that while you're pressing the bar back up. Okay, now this is where we can start to tie it all together. Because let's say you're trying to do what we just discussed on the squats or the bench press, and you can't physically do it. If you don't have the range of motion to get into those positions, you're going to eventually need to get that. That's going to involve probably doing some stretching, so stretching through your lats, but mainly is going to be strengthening through that range. And this is the problem a lot of powerlifters have, is that they're really, really strong, but they're not very strong through the range they need to be in the shoulders when it comes to low bar squats and bench press. So learning how to use rows to complement what you're doing on squats and bench press is really important. Think about it, right? Everyone knows rows are important. Everyone knows back work is important. But that's not enough. We have to think, how do we actually use this to contribute? It's not just about moving from point A to point B. It's doing it mindfully in a way that's going to actually help you squat more, bench press more, and deadlift more. That's what powerlifting is all about. You're not exercising, you're training. You're trying to make these things better. And we can do that with this. So come back to what we were talking about with the upper back. We want scapular retraction, we want depression, we want thoracic extension, we want full range though. We want to come back as far as we can. That's where a lot of people go wrong on their rows. They're either not thinking about the specific position, or they're missing range, or both. So I'm going to show you the kind of range you need to be going through when you're doing your rows to contribute over to things like squats and bench press. The most important thing is basically just going as far as you can, and for most people, that's not going to be far enough, and you're going to have to improve it over time. The other really important thing is that you're not making compensations to go that far. The body will do what the brain tells it to. If you tell your arm to go back as far as you can, you'll just make compensations. You'll just go like this and move your shoulders. So thinking shoulders back and down, chest out while you're doing this is the second most important thing. When it comes to implementing this stuff into your training, let's say you're trying to do these rows and you find that you have to reduce the load significantly to be taking it through that kind of range. That's okay. The strength will come back quickly in that movement as you improve the range. The other thing is, you don't have to do all your rows like that. You could have a dedicated movement that's towards fixing the positions for squat, bench, deadlift, and then some other rows where you just go heavy as hell and try to get as big and juicy as possible. A good practice would be to do that kind of full range row with low weight before you do squats and bench press to prime those positions so that when you go to cue them in the movement, they actually start to manifest in the movement. Because you have to remember, you only fix a squat with a squat. You only fix a bench press with a bench press. Doing the rows is good, but it's up to you to then cue and put that action into the lift itself. So make sure you're thinking about it when you do squats, bench press, and to some degree deadlifts. I really hope that helped, and I look forward to seeing the kind of progress that you make over time.